Welcome to the Sacred Birthwork and Business podcast, where sacred birthwork meets soul-aligned business. I'm your host, Anna Lundqvist, a former midwife, now sacred birthworker mentor, business coach, and the founder of Sacred Birth International. My intention with this podcast is to inspire you to follow your birthworker calling and to step fully into your power and purpose and unapologetically claim your place as the feminine leader that you were meant to be in your life and community. Let's reclaim sacred birthwork, let's reclaim sacred business, and let's do it the feminine way. Let's begin. Hi, and welcome back to the Sacred Birthwork and Biz podcast. Welcome to my Midwich cottage this Wednesday morning. First, I just want to acknowledge all of you who took the time to comment on your favorite podcast app or on social media, on Sacred Birth International's Instagram, or even sending me emails about me starting this podcast. It does really matter. I wrote to my email list last week as I shared this podcast. I wrote, I think last Friday, sharing the birth of this podcast, how I've been in prodromal labor really with this podcast for a long time. I intended to start it already, I think, in June this year, but I couldn't make myself for some reason. It just wasn't time, it wasn't flowing. And I just had to listen to that, just listen to the inner nudge of waiting. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe the world wasn't ready. Maybe this podcast just wasn't ready to be born until now. And it was a really big kind of build up last week as I was recording all my introductory episodes that maybe you've listened to now or watched on YouTube as I share about my journey. And I wrote to my email list, to my community, just saying like how, it's been everything, so many feelings, it's excitement, but it's also like vulnerability hangover. Sharing so much about myself and birthing this new thing and not knowing how it's going to be received. It's scary because it's so much of me. And for everyone who knows me and who's on my email list or in my community knows that I'm a Virgo, I'm a perfectionist. I'm quite shy and I don't really like sharing too much of my personal life. And I'm constantly in this battle of having, these creative downloads, feeling called to share certain things, especially about sacred birth work and also now business. And at the same time, feeling feeling vulnerable doing so and feeling scared doing so and dealing with, which we are all dealing with, imposter syndrome, not good enough, the witch wound, the sisterhood wound, fear of failure, all of these things. And so I thought, what better first episode but to share this, because this is what I'm in right now. I'm totally in the vulnerability hangover of having shared so much of myself and putting it out there and waiting to see, will it be received? And again, like your responses does mean a lot. And I think you don't know that because you probably hear a lot of people share that if you're listening to podcasts or, wherever, and people say like, hey, please comment if you like this, or all these things. You might just think it's a way to, I don't know, just a vain thing of like, oh, come and like me. It's like, it's actually not. It's also this, I mean, maybe there's some of that, but for me, it's actually really important to to see that you actually like what I do in the world, especially when you're doing a podcast, because obviously I'm right here and right now just talking to myself. I know you'll be watching and you'll be listening, but I don't know what you're thinking. I'm not getting a response. When I, for example, do a guest podcast, I get responses from the person that I'm talking to. Like there's this dialogue happening, and like how it's received by the other person. The same with when I'm teaching, in my Sacred Birthworker mentorship or in the business course, when I'm holding space in my village or, doing live or online workshops or whatever, I have people that respond to what I'm saying. I see how it's being received. But right now, I'm just throwing myself out there into the ether and hoping I'm going to be received. And so I want to really, really acknowledge and thank you who've taken a minute out of your time to tell me what you think and giving me so much beautiful, positive feedback. I love how I received a lot of feelings of, oh, I recognize myself in that, whether that is midwives who've gone through the system or birth workers who've been working within this, current maternity system, or if you've reached out and actually told me, that you appreciate that I talk about me having imposter syndrome or that I've been going through it. And there's been a lot of that kind of feedback actually. And so, as I just mentioned, I think that's why I'm choosing today to just share about the imposter syndrome, the witch wound, the sisterhood wound, because this is really something that very much affects women. I think more so, especially, of course, the witch wound and sisterhood wound, but just imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough, all of these things are keeping us back as women, following our calling, our purpose, daring to do that, um, daring to be seen, to be heard, daring to step into business, daring to step up into our business. Maybe I think a lot of women might, you know, follow their calling somewhat, maybe do that course, but then maybe they do start the solo trading business journey, but don't really commit to it, just like me. If you've listened to my story, you know that I was there for a long time. And I think this is super common. And also, like, the biggest reason why I'm doing this podcast is because I want to help you both follow your calling into birth work if you have that, daring to do that. And then also actually daring to show up for your business once you are a birth worker, because so many don't. And it's not just birth work. Like, as women, not only, of course, do we have the human thing of imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough, all of these inner demons, inner critics, whatever, and the witch wound and the sisterhood wound, but we also have this beautiful hormone, estrogen, that puts this veil over us as we begin to bleed as girls and makes us very agreeable. It makes us by nature just be this agreeable good girl. I mean, also society, of course, is doing that to us and have imprinted that on us, but also our hormones are doing that to us. Women, we tend to overthink and intertwined with the witch wound, which comes back to, of course, the witch burnings, very much intertwined with birth work, the first to burn, the first to be hunted down were midwives, were the wise women of the village, the ones who were seen, the healers, the ones who would heal the people in the community that would be at the rite of passages of both death and birth and everything in between. Women, quote unquote, having some sort of authority or power or maybe could, provide for themselves, were independent women, I guess. And so today we have science that's called epigenetics, how, we're not just imprinted on like what a mother's and grandmothers and in our lineage have been eating and living physically, but also like their emotions. And it's been imprinted into our cells. Transgenerational trauma, for example, you can see that, for example, with Holocaust survivors or famine survivors and their babies and their also grandkids and so on and so forth. So as women, as a collective, as women, all over the world for hundreds of years, it was very dangerous, for thousands of years, really. Us as women, it hasn't been safe to be woman. Even just a little bit over 100 years ago, you could be locked away for hysteria if you were a woman who didn't comply or do what you were told, or didn't want to marry, or didn't want to, fill in the blank. So it wasn't long ago, even. It hasn't been safe for women to be seen, to be heard, to be standing in their power, in their truth, who they are, and sharing that with the world, especially if it's not mainstream. Much easier if you're a mainstream person. If you're listening to this or looking at this on YouTube, you're probably not. You're probably just like me, a little bit of an oddball, someone who's not kind of fitting into the mold of what society has been. Of course, if you are, then you might not feel as much of this. But if you are like me, the witch wound is strong. It's strong in us. The same with the sisterhood wound, because it also goes hand in hand with the witch wound. So, you know, it hasn't been safe to be a woman. And also for a long time, that has meant you have to manipulate as a woman to survive. You might have to um, out your sisters, your neighbor, that happened during the witch trials, that happened during those years of women being prosecuted, that women, not to die themselves, be prosecuted themselves, had to tell on someone else, whether or not that was true. And most of the time it's just a survival mechanism. And so keeping your head down and keeping quiet and keeping invisible has been important for a very long time. So want to give you this background to understand also maybe where your feelings of this is coming from. And it helps to know it. It doesn't take it away, right? So as I just shared, right now in this moment, I'm having vulnerability hangover. I'm feeling imposter syndrome. I'm feeling the witch wound and the sisterhood wound in relation to having birthed this new offering that is from my heart, it's from my soul, it's from who I am. It's very vulnerable because it's so me, much more vulnerable than me sharing the Natural Birth podcast. Because that's its own thing. Sure, I show up there and I show myself, and some of you are here because you've listened to me there. But this is just me. This is me. And so it's much more vulnerable to share. And why I want to share this is not to get your sympathy or, get your likes or something like that. It's because I want to show you that we all have it. You're not alone. And I think this is really crucial to understand. Doesn't matter how many followers someone have, how big they are, how long they've worked, they will have all of these too, because we're human and we're women. Because we have that epigenetics, we have that transgenerational trauma through the feminine line. We're human beings, and so we're always going to want to fit in to belong. It's been dangerous not to belong into our tribe. If we were kicked out of a tribe, we would die. So it's a very primal, deep fear to stand out, to do something different, to not be liked. That is actually, that has meant potential death back in the day. So of course that still lives deep within us. To belong is so important. So it's scary to put yourself out there because what if that means no one likes me anymore? Ah, scary. What if that means that I don't belong anymore? What if I get kicked out? You know, you can feel it in your whole body. That fear is just really primal. We all have that. We have the estrogen veil that makes us agreeable and, more inclined to be the good girl and pleasing and not want to, cause confrontation or, fill in the blank. We have all of that. Whoever we are. The difference between me and potentially you, if you recognize this and you are keeping yourself kind of in the shadows and not fully stepping into your calling as a birth worker, not fully stepping into your business, because of these things. I want you to know that I have it, we all have it, and the only difference is that I'm doing it anyway. And trial and error for years. I didn't just wake up, start this podcast, and it flies, no, it doesn't. I haven't just started my birth business and bam, I fill my mentorship and my courses and my business flies. No. Sometimes it might look like that on social media or, when you see other people doing this and you don't know all the years of trial and error and them putting themselves out there and trying different things and before they find their thing. And I think today, especially also as adults, we're really bad at failing. We're really bad at putting ourselves out there and trying something new, spreading our wings. And if it doesn't work the first time, we just go like burnt, oh, we feel burnt and we just, oh, it's not for me. It's not true. So you can't fail. You can't fail in life. You can't fail in business. You can't fail following your purpose if you don't stop. And I think that's a truth that you recognize when you hear it, but it's really hard to be with. It's hard to do, to try the 20th time and it not flying, working, getting the response you want. And it's so vulnerable. It's so hard to do this dance. And especially as, um, birth workers, we're usually solo entrepreneurs. We're doing it on our own. So we don't have like a team or, people to maybe bounce off or feel supported by, especially in the beginning. Then maybe we start to get people in our community that start to support us. But in the beginning, we're just so alone, right? And so it can be hard to be there. This is why, for example, when it comes to both my Sacred Birth Worker mentorship and my business course, community is such a big part of it, both during, the mentorship is for a full year, the business course is for a month or 5 weeks, but then it's continuing. So in the mentorship, you can stay in the Sacred Birth Worker community for however long you want. And in the business one, it's a whole year. And we meet every month and we support each other online. And, you can bounce off the other women in the community who are also birth workers. This means so much as a solo entrepreneur, like most birth workers are, to have this community. When you're a birth worker, to be able to come to a birth debrief every month within our community and share about the highs and the lows, everything in between, the politics of going into the hospital, for example, or whatever. It's so important to not feel alone because we are alone in our business usually, especially for the first years at least. Maybe we work with some other birth workers, but they will have their business and we will have ours. And so, yes, bit out of a tangent there, but what I want to say is that you never fully, it's not like you ever don't have imposter syndrome or feeling the fear of failure or feeling the witch wound or the sisterhood wound. Um, Fear of judgment, all of this vulnerability hangover when you've shared something that means a lot to you, like I have right now. This all means so much to me. This podcast means a lot to me. And so it's even more scary when it means a lot to you, right? It's different if I was selling a shoe, right? Then it's the shoe, it's a thing. But really, I'm selling in a sense myself. And when we do that, it's so vulnerable. And as birth workers, we're selling ourselves in a sense. We're selling our services, which means we are giving those services. Like we're attending the birth portal with the woman and her family. We're holding that childbirth education course. We're selling us, which is so different from selling a shoe or a thing. That's not so vulnerable. Maybe if you created something really deeply personal, of course, that's different, but a shoe is not deeply vulnerable. So, of course, it's different what kind of business you're doing, what we're doing here, whether you've started that journey or not, is vulnerable because it is sharing ourselves. And you're always going to feel the witch wound. You're always going to feel the sisterhood wound, the imposter syndrome, not worthy, not good enough. That's always going to be there. But the more, for me, for example, the more I just do it, and I have a mantra that I've been living by, especially the last kind of 3 years as I've really stepped into my business, is it's good enough. I say that to myself all the time. The things I post on social media, the podcast, everything, it's good enough. Because if I didn't say that to myself, the Virgo in me, the perfectionist, she would never post anything. She would never do anything because, to be honest, nothing that I ever share is good enough. Or, sorry, is perfect. But it is good enough. It is good enough. It's good enough. And I keep on repeating this to myself to make myself do these things. And I also really connect with my purpose. So I have this deep seated, purpose in life that I want to serve. I want to serve. That has looked different throughout my life, as you know, if you've listened to the first 3 episodes where I share my journey and what I've done in life before I became a midwife and then sacred birth worker, mentor, and educator. Being of service is such a strong purpose of mine. Now I've really honed in on like my kind of life purpose in this moment, at least. I've come together. The sacred birth worker mentorship for me is truly like it's all of me in one offer. I love this so much. It gives me so much pleasure, so much joy. I feel so proud of this. I really feel like my life's work has come to fruition. And so that helps having found that. And because I've found that, and now also like the business side of things has also become such a passion of mine. So that's like also, one of my purpose now. It really comes together in this one thing, which is I want to help birth workers thrive. I want to help educate the new earth birth worker, that for me, that is the sacred birth worker. Um, I want to educate and mentor and help them become the best birth worker that they can be and truly marry sacred birthwork, sacredness, spirituality, being a beautiful space holder together with birthwork. That is my jam. That is what is unique about my training. The deep spiritual work we do, the inner work we do, that we also bring to women and families, the women's, ancient business stuff, the feminine leadership stuff. That is what I'm like so passionate about marrying with all the midwifery knowledge that I have into this mentorship. So I have that. And then I want my birth workers, but all birth workers that resonate with who I am because they're a bit of me. I'm a bit of them. That's soul sisters out there. Maybe you're one of them. I want to help them thrive. I want women and birth workers who are doing the good work in the world, who are just like me, wanting to be a positive change within the very broken medicalized maternity system that we have right now, to be these beacons of light, to be the agents of change, to be the feminine leaders in their communities and online, to help usher in the new, to help mitigate as we are transversing this time that is a bit crazy, to be the ones that hold the hands and walks alongside women who want something different than this maternity system that causes so much trauma in women, in babies, in families, in communities, in humanity. And so I want to help them, help you if you're one of them, to have a thriving sacred birth business that lights you up, that makes you feel amazing every day when you wake up. So many, and I think many of you listening, you're amazing at what you're doing. Like the work you're doing for women changes their lives. You know that. And you love what you're doing. But a lot of you are not thriving in your business. You either have to take on a lot of clients each month and do a lot of work and maybe overwork yourself or overgive. And you probably are, just like me, someone who tends to overgive and just give, 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 because being of service lights you up and makes you happy. But there's balance to be had that we can be not so great at as birth workers, as women, boundaries and healthy ones and all of that jazz. You're probably not charging what you actually need and want and deserve to actually thrive. And also, maybe you've been working for a really long time and you're ready for a break, or you want to be able to take breaks throughout the year. The first few years as birth workers, I don't know about you, but all I wanted was to be in the birth portal. All I wanted was to be in the magic birth portal, witnessing life, witnessing woman in her power. Like I was addicted, and we are in the beginning. The oxytocin makes you high. Like it's an actual drug, right? It's beautiful work. There's nothing better. There's just nothing better than being a birth worker. But after a few years, maybe you want to be on maternity leave. And that means, especially if you want to be that, on maternity leave for longer, that means maybe no income. Maybe you are in a country that gives you maternity leave. Maybe you're not. Maybe it's just for a few months. Maybe you want to be home for 2 years with your babies. And that means maybe no income. You're dependent on your husband, your partner. Maybe you're a solo mom and you just can't. Or you just want to take a month off here and there. You want to be able to travel. You want to, take holidays. Maybe you get sick. Maybe someone in your family does. Maybe you need to move countries like me and just need a break. Maybe your personal life just needs you to take a break. When we're always just trading time for money, and it means we need to attend births or like physically be somewhere for someone. Even if you take time off the birth portal, we're still doing one-on-one coaching or one-on-one, or holding groups, whatever. We're still trading our time for money. This makes us vulnerable. I noticed that when I moved to Sweden from Australia, as I told you about in the last episode. And so a passion of mine now is to help birth workers. You know, Really, first it came from wanting to help my own, the sacred birth workers that I train, to just set up their business to be a hybrid from the beginning. Doesn't mean that they maybe for the first few years at all really focus on their online stuff, but it's there for when they want it. Maybe they just want to do 100% being in the birth portal, and I get it because that was my jam and I love that. But I help them set up the hybrid for whenever they need it and want it. And for some, that is from the get-go, they want both of them. Some are already mothers or, mothers for young children or want to get pregnant or are pregnant and they know, like, I want this hybrid. So yeah, anyways, going from imposter syndrome to this is just what I want to say is that because I have this strong sense of wanting to serve and I have this purpose that is greater than my fears, my imposter syndrome, my witch wound, my sisterhood wound, my fear of judgment, not being good enough, not being well received, getting hate, getting trolled, all the things, right? That will still be there, that's there. And especially when I'm in a launch month, like right now, I'm launching the business course for birth workers that starts on the 29th of September. And I'm putting myself out there a lot. I'm sharing myself a lot on social media, which makes me feel really uncomfortable. I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't get off on that. I don't like that. I don't like to show up on social media, believe it or not. It's not something I like. I think it's hard work to do that. But I have systems now. I have systems, structures. I have both, internal work that I do. I have strategies to make myself do it and not feel too terrible about it. I have ways of coping mechanisms, strategies, foundations, things that I put into my business to be able to do launch months and not back away, not stop in the middle, because that's so easy. Because it's so vulnerable, it's so hard, so cringy, it's everything. Oh my God, putting myself out there. I do not like it, believe me, but I still do it. And that's the difference potentially between me and you, is that I've got things in place. I've got tools and strategies to help me launch in this way for a month or longer. And I want to help you do that too. That's where I'm at. And so I'm sharing about it, sharing about my vulnerability hangover that I have right now, um, that I'm navigating and showing up anyways, showing up here, sharing with you about it, showing up on social media, just showing up because my purpose is bigger than my fears. My desire to serve is greater than my personal fears of rejection, of judgment, not being good enough, all the things. And don't ever, ever doubt that I don't have them. Don't ever doubt that anyone that you're following on social media or listening to on a podcast, however big you think they might be, you never get over this. You don't. You just learn to handle it and live with it and navigate it. And it does become easier. It definitely does become easier because when you do it and you do it repeatedly, you realize you're not going to die. Right? So the more you do it, the more you expose yourself to it. I mean, this is exposure therapy right now, guys. Like this right here, this episode, part of me is cringing right now for sharing all of this with you. This is exposure therapy. I'm exposing myself right now to what I fear, and a part of me realizes, okay, she's okay. She's okay. She's not gonna die. And so it becomes less and less scary, but it never goes away. So that is my message to you today. My message to you is recognize what you're feeling. Recognize if it's, whatever you want to call it, the veil of estrogen, imposter syndrome, sisterhood wound, witch wound, fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of success, all of these things. Recognize what you're feeling and notice, is this holding you back from living your purpose as a birth worker? Is this holding you back from daring to even become that which you are longing for, being a birth worker? And if you are a birth worker, is it hindering you from actually making ends meet, from thriving in your birth business? Because you are staying in the shadows, doing the good work to the few clients that find you, even though you're not putting yourself out there. And here's my invitation. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Baby steps. And of course, I'm here to serve. So if you are feeling the call to become a birth worker, join us in the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship coming up in January 2026. And if you're a birth worker right now, you're feeling there's fire being lit in you as I speak of these things, and you're ready to commit to your birth business, to step out of the shadows and show yourself to the world so that your people can find you, so that your soul aligned clients can find you, come join us. We start the 29th of September. We're going to go hard in the best sense possible. A full month, 5 weeks in October. all of October, we are going to kick ass the feminine way. No hustle, no grind, just like really meeting yourself and facing all those things like the imposter syndrome and all your kind of money mindset hiccups that we all have, right? We're going to go through all the things that are keeping you back from actually following your purpose, sharing your heart and soul with the world. And I'm going to help you find your high ticket offer, like my mentorship, where I just bring all of me into this one huge, beautiful, fantastic offering that's now serving women and serving the world and serving me. I want to help you find your thing. If you feel ready, you don't have to know what it is. We will find it together during our month together. If you want to do that, if you want to set yourself up to thrive in your birth business, both in real life and online, then I'm here for it. I'm here to guide you, to help you, to share everything I know with you. Come and join us in October, starting the 29th of September. Come and join the business course for birth workers. Thanks for listening. I hope you loved this episode. And if you did, again, I so appreciate all your feedback. Comment down below or in your podcast app or wherever you're listening or watching this. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So lovely to share this space with you.
Thank you for listening. If you love this podcast, then please share the love on your podcast app by leaving a comment or pop over to our Instagram at Sacred Birth International. I'd love to connect there. If you'd like to know more about the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship or the business course for birth workers, then head on over to sacredbirthinternational.com to learn more. Thank you for listening.